shopping should be seamless, whether it's in store or online, frictionless experience. And this is, table stakes for the consumer. And so consumers almost expect instant gratification, and they expect to shop when and how they want.
Welcome to the Mastering E-commerce Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Eitan Koter, co-CEO of Vimy. In an era of rising acquisition costs and increased competition, this podcast is dedicated to helping you drive sales, engage customers, and build meaningful communities so you can turn passive visitors into active buyers. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out on future content. Now let's get started with the episode. Hello listeners, welcome to another episode of Mastering E-commerce Marketing. Today's guest is a powerhouse in the world of retail innovation and customer experience. Angela Gearhart is a strategic consultant, executive leader, and the chief experience officer of MediaMaxx, where she helps brands create more engaging and authentic customer journeys across digital and physical touchpoints. With a track record that includes driving Sleep Number's growth from 300 million to over 2 billion, Angela has earned accolades like Top Global Retail Expert by Rethink Retail and Retail Innovator by Retail Touchpoints. She's a thought leader in unified commerce, performance marketing, and the transformation of point of sale into point of experience. Angela, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm great. Thank you for that introduction.
Yes, it's really impressive. I really appreciate your time, and it's great hosting you here and learning more about you and your experience and the value that can provide. But before we start, Angela, if you can choose like 3 words that most important to you, I'd love it if you can share it with us.
Yes, thank you. So we just, talked about this a couple minutes ago. So I'm pulling the 3 words that came to top of mind. And the first one is curious. So this kind of insatiable curiosity. Both about the world around me. We love to travel. I love to, learn new things and go new places. And people are always like, why do you need to go there? And I'm like, well, I'm just curious. I want to know what it's all about. And I think that's helped in both my professional journey as well as my personal journey. The second one is empathy. And so it's something that I try and always practice of, well, what does that other person think about? And where is that other person coming from? And that's, especially important when you're focusing on a consumer. Where are they coming from? And what do they want? And why are they here? And why are we serving them? And so that kind of empathetic connection. And then the third one, so we've got empathy, we've got curiosity, creativity. What are different ways to solve problems? In a way that is unique. It could be a unique problem-solving, differentiated solution, but it's also created in the world on the artistic side. So I'm very much a combo of a left brain, right brain person, bringing both to really everything that I do. And so that creativity and that sense of art, and I guess art and wonder from the curiosity are the 3 first words that come to top of mind.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing them, because it's like curiosity, empathy, creativity seems so important in today's retail e-commerce space, right? What worked previously is not working today. A new generation of shoppers coming in and they think and act differently. And I know you talk a lot and you post a lot of content around that, value creation, and price is not a differentiator anymore. And I'd love to have your thought just for the get-go about these concepts.
Yeah. I come from really looking at it from all sides. So I am a longtime retailer. I'll give away the age, 40 plus years on a couple decades in retail. And so I've had the chance to work with small brands, small retailers, big retailers, specialty, theme retail, big box. I've also been on the other side from an agency perspective as a consultant, and I've had my own brand. And so understand what it's like to be a teeny tiny brand where you're trying to break through to a customer. And value is the key. And so in times of uncertainty where consumers are hesitant to spend, I mean, personally, I'm looking at everything that I'm purchasing and making sure that it's the right thing for us and that it's worth it. So the conversation is all about, well, is it worth it? And how do you explain that to the consumer? And so I see value as it's a formula. So it's definitely more in price. So there's five elements to creating consumer value. So one is around ease and convenience. So shopping should be seamless, whether it's in store or online, frictionless experience. And this is table stakes for the consumer. And so consumers almost expect instant gratification, and they expect to shop when and how they want. And you can now shop when and how you want and where, from everything from shoppable video to, I'm posting a lot on Facebook Marketplace these days. So I have a lot of my own personal consumers. The second one is core differentiators and authentic benefits. And so this is, why should I buy your product and why should I buy it from you? What makes your product different? That it's worth it. And then aligning both content and platform to the audience segment and speaking to them on what matters to them and where are they consuming that information. So not only what's different about the product, but how are you communicating that to the customer?
Mm-hmm.
The third one is all about meaningful experiences. So we talk about, both the experience of the product, but the shopping experience. And so a connected shopping experience, both from an e-commerce perspective, but a physical perspective, and looking at, especially in the physical world, the three dimensions. So one is the human dimension, which is both the shopper, the consumer, but also the sales associate in store. And so how are you using that as an asset to connect with your customer? What's your sales experience? What's your sales process? How are you centering the needs of the consumer, but also the needs of that sales associate, because they're the front line connecting. There's a physical dimension, which is the physical store, which really should be a three-dimensional selling tool for that sales associate, and giving a space for the consumer to once again understand why is your product different? Why is it better? What are your benefits? And then digital, which is kind of the connecting point between. So what are digital experiences and technology that enhance both of those? With Sleep Number, working with Sleep Number for 20 years, it's a high consideration product, a high price point, technology integrated. It's highly personalized. It's an emotional product. So using digital to help the consumer understand that value equation and why it's worth it increases conversion, and it increases that propensity to build both credibility and confidence in the product and the sales associate in that experience. The fourth one is community. So, why should I buy your product? Why should I buy it from you? Why should I continue to buy it from you? So that sense of community, which is beyond just loyalty, but loyalty and advocacy. So it's having a meaningful reason to continue to come back from a reward perspective, but also aligning the brand to your values. So you think about all of these things that have been happening recently, and Target's business down because of boycotting, because they're not aligning to values. Tesla's experience down. But then companies like Costco, where their traffic is up because they continue to align their values to their consumers' values, and vice versa. The fifth one is price and urgency. So, I've had this idea, why am I buying your product? Why am I buying it from you? Why am I continuing to buy it? But why am I buying it today? So today is all about urgency, and price is relatively, and affordability is very subjective and very personal, but urgency can help drive that decision today. And that's where price does come in. And there's, a lot of products where price is just the factor because that's what your budget is. But this whole value equation in these five elements can elevate the perceived value. And that's what it's all about, is the perception, because then it's an emotional response that the consumer feels like, I've made a smart choice, I've made the right choice, and I'm going to continue to make that choice with you as a brand or a retailer.
Yeah. So that value equation, it's kind of a comprehensive overview, right? I mean, that value equation has like these five pillars. Some of them are like inbound pillars, some of them are outbound, right? So if we start from the inbound side of things, and we talk a lot about differentiation, obviously, and I know that authenticity is also important.
Absolutely.
And companies, find their true differentiators. What is the process that you usually implement? When you're working with companies, trying to find, what's so unique And again, it's not about the product, obviously. It's not about the features. It's about their true self, that genuine, what's so unique about them. How do you...
Yeah. Well, I think that's where the curiosity comes in. Well, there's a lot of questions. Why is your brand in business? For whom is this product for great value? What problems does it solve? How is the brand uniquely qualified to solve this problem or engagement or service? And what does success look like? And how do you start to map that out? And so you start with creating a framework around really, why are you in business? And some companies are really great of understanding this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it. And others I actually struggle with the first question.
Yes.
Is how are we different and how are we going to compete in the market? And then it's looking at, okay, well, we understand what your foundational is. Then how are you starting to communicate that? How are you bringing your brand to life? And this is important for both B2C and B2B companies. And working with another consulting group in B2B tech, it's understanding that your customer is still, you have to connect with them on communicating your differentiation and your brand. So it's starting foundationally, and then how are you brand positioned? Why does your brand matter? And what do you want the one thing your consumer to say about you, that you're the X? And then starting to build your positioning around your reasons to believe and your, how are you connecting emotionally? How are you connecting rationally? And so building the strategy around how you want to show up in the market. And then you start to look at, the people part of it. Do you have the right team internally to connect with your customer? And then people from an ideal customer. Do you know who your customer is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How are you reaching that customer? And then you're looking at, from a functional perspective, process, both, and it's always internal and external. Do you have the right internal processes to support your customer structure? And then do you have the right external facing processes or sales processes to make it easy for your customer, especially high consideration products that require a lot of explanation and trust and that human interaction. Then we look at, from a physical perspective, distribution, your real estate strategy. Are you in the right place?
Yeah. What customers are spending time, right?
Exactly. And does that align to how they're shopping? And not only distribution from physical retail, but then you get from a digital perspective where it gets, you've got your website, you've got your fully integrated marketing stack, you have your social, you have your influencer, you have when I started at Sleep Number 20 years ago, there was no Instagram. And we thought, website? Why would I have a website? It's just talk about our stores. And digital has become, it's how the consumer shops. And so really understanding where that customer wants to interact with you. And then where are the other unique ways that you can interact with your customer? So is it bringing your brand outside of your store, outside of your digital, to the customer, whether it's showrooms or pop-ups or events? But it's a 360-degree look at where your customer is and understanding who they are, and then how are you going to meet them?
Yeah.
And an experience that builds on those three levers of human, digital, and physical across all of those dimensions. So retail is no longer, I get up and I go to the store. That sofa to shelf kind of customer journey. It's I get up and I see a post. I turn the computer on. I see a couple of newsletters. I turn the TV on. I talk to a friend. I might go to a store. I watch a video. It's anywhere and everywhere. And so retailers and brands have to think differently and really understand their consumer, and consumer insights are at the absolute center, and the experience is at the center of how to connect. And, being a small product brand as well, we started a small pet canine wellness company, and understanding the complexity of all of those interconnected ways to reach your consumer. And then you have to continue to reach your consumer. And so this growth flywheel is another way of looking at your business. So you have your initial customer acquisition and engagement, all of the tactics to drive that. Then you start getting into conversion, all of the tactics to drive that from a marketing perspective, both online and store. And then one of the most important pieces is driving that repeat referral and brand loyalty and advocacy to then bring that back, because your existing customer is your richest mine of sales. at your lowest cost. So I just saw a post on LinkedIn this week about, oh, you got to really look at your existing customers. And I'm like, well, where have you been for the last 2,000 years? That's the center of what retail has been. And retail should be win-win. It should be, I'm selling something, I'm getting something for it. You're getting something that you feel is worth it and the value. And then I'm going to come back and repeat this growth flywheel.
Yeah. And Angela, for sure, with your 2 decades of experience, it's getting more complicated, right? I mean, both from the shopper's perspective, they're buying totally different than what they used to, but also all these new and different marketing channels are becoming like an ecosystem of communities. And you mentioned communities.
Yeah.
You have TikTok community now, and you have your amazingbrand.com community, and you have the newsletter. I mean, and it's becoming more and more specialized just to get to know what to do in each one of those communities, and you don't not do it all. On the other side, we have huge improvement in data analytics, insights, AI, absolutely, right? And so I mean, just taking all this into consideration, and you have this huge amount of data right now, I hear and I feel that it's very complicated to understand, even to know what to ask, right? Or what's important. So how do you prioritize things? How do you know where to focus? I mean, how do you analyze all these different, maybe siloed or not non-siloed, but how do you approach this issue?
Yeah. So I think about the foundation is really strategic clarity. And so going back to what's your differentiation and clarity around that, and clarity around as much clarity and specificity around your customer. And so then it's aligning your content and your platform to your audience and breaking it down into understanding the audience and where it shops and how do you focus on those channels, and then prioritizing both channel and then looking at channel from a productivity and from a profitability perspective. Mm-hmm. And it's basically creating a balanced portfolio of tactics of where do you need to show up? Do you need to be heavy in influencers? Do you need to be heavy in search? Do you need to be heavy in performance marketing or affiliate marketing? Or do you need to be looking at physical distribution and stores? Or do you need to be looking at showrooms or a partnership? And so it's looking at it from a holistic approach, because they're not just in one place. And so worked with companies that are like, oh, we have a website. How come they're not showing up? Mm-hmm. Well,
build it and they will come.
Exactly. Right? Build it and they will come. Well, they will not come. So it's exactly. Yeah. No, nobody cares. You've got the greatest thing on earth and nobody knows about it. So it's layering the tactics of the touch points. It's layering the tactics of the content. And then it's layering, well, what is the technology to help us fuel? So going back to that curiosity and creativity about which problems do we need to solve in the customer journey? Mm-hmm. And the conversation is all about AI right now. But if you're not asking the right questions or you're not formulating the right problem, you're not solving it to the right outcome. And so you can use AI along almost every single point in the customer journey, but where is it most relevant to the consumer, and what is it solving for them, and or what is it solving from an efficiency, productivity on the internal side? I just went to a AI boot camp this last week, and it's interesting because everybody's asking the same, very similar questions. I know I need to be figuring out how I want to use this, but it's all about framing what do you need to solve. And so the strategy and development is very much so relevant. What are you going to do with the data? I mean, like you said, you can get mountains of data, and unless you're doing something with it to change an outcome, change a decision, it doesn't really help.
Yeah.
And so it's having that right technology stack underneath as a foundation. And I always look at technology as it needs to solve an objective, and it needs to have a very specific measurable that it's useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, you wanted to add something?
I was just going to say, very often there's a conversation, especially on the internal side of, we need a technology to solve this.
Yeah.
If we want to solve,
what's the question? What do we don't know, right?
Yeah, exactly. And technology requires cure and feeding forever. So it's not always the easiest solution.
Sure. And things are changing so fast, right? And some of those people, they're so busy with the day-to-day, and they need to fit out, finding time for their brain to get more free on the free zone, try to think more creatively, as you said. And it's very, very important. And this is why I think, we see this explosion of fractional CXO, right? Just all over, helping on marketing, helping on operation, product, trying to bring insights and new knowledge on all these new things that are just changing so fast. So next, I want to talk to you about unified commerce and how it's connected to everything we've been discussing so far. But let's first try to define what do you mean by unified commerce.
I think unified commerce is really, it's an interesting term because the customer doesn't think about it like that.
Yeah.
If you think about it from a customer perspective, they're just like, I'm shopping. If you think about it from a retailer technology side, they want to talk about unified commerce as a thing. And so when you look at it from a customer, it's just, I'm shopping when, where, and how I want, and make it seamless, easy, and frictionless, which is that first part of the value equation. And so when you look at it from their perspective, it's then what are the levers that I need to solve to create a unified commerce experience for this consumer? So if unified commerce says I want to experience a product in store and buy it online, unified commerce. If I want to watch a video and shop that video and go directly to the website, unified commerce. So it's connecting the dots of how the customer wants to interact with the product, the content, the experience, and all of it together. So thinking about experience and thinking about retail is a matrix of all of these different elements that at one time you could think about separately. And a lot of times are very separate in organizations. You've got a physical retail part of the organization, you have an e-com part of the organization, you've got a social group, you've got an operational group. And because they're all so siloed, they're not thinking about it as a unified shopping experience for the customer.
There's this holistic experience, right? And,
right.
And again, this question about why you purchase this product, I mean, asking all those surveys,
right?
It's so difficult because those answers are just changing over time, right? If you could have asked, like now, why you make that purchase, and again, because we know it's like impulse purchase, so it's very difficult for people to share why they really, have made that purchase, because there's like these unofficial reasons, right, that they usually don't share. So it needs to be very, very smart questioning. And great. It's really super interesting, Angela. Tell us more about MediaMaxx.
So MediaMaxx, we focus on helping brands and retailers both on the online and in store. And so we look at an integrated marketing of helping driving that flywheel. So from an engagement through conversion to repeat and referral from an online perspective. We have deeper capabilities in the affiliate and performance space, and we're developing some software solutions to help increase conversion in that space. On the physical space, we look at that human, physical, digital experience and where are the gaps and opportunities, and look at, how can we take existing assets or where are the assets that need to be built to better connect with the consumer. And then look at those 6 factors that I talked about: people, process, distribution, place, experience, marketing, and where are the edges? Where are the opportunities? How can we build a strategy that helps drive clarity from a sales-driven mindset? Like I said, I've been in retail forever. The goal is to sell something. So a lot of marketing materials. We're talking about engagement. We're talking about this. I'm like, your goal is you need to sell something. And so having that clarity of what your outcome is, and understanding the other questions that we talked about. Why are you in business? Why should I buy it from you? Why do I continue to buy it? And what you're trying to get out of it, we help drive that, unlock that value to drive growth.
Yeah. And when you talk to brands or retailers, both offline and online, what are the main challenges do you see that they are facing, these days?
I think it's all sales driving. I mean, that's the end goal is we need to sell more whatever service stuff, but it's the clarity of how to get there, and it's the clarity of which tactics should we focus on. So it's the clarity of kind of answering all of those questions to determine where are the gaps to focus on, and then look at it from a profitability perspective of which ones to do first, which ones to do second, where do you need to focus, and then helping get that buy-in across the organization. It could be from a physical perspective, the shopping experience. And is there a sales process and experience that brings that customer through the journey? And do you need technology and digital? And in which part of the experience is that additive? And which part of it is just someone said, we need iPads. Okay. Why?
But I saw my competition is doing it, so we need to as well.
Exactly. So a lot of more of that clarity of what to do and why, and just giving that holistic perspective. And also on the, like I said, on the performance affiliate side, it could be even program management, building the strategy around the program and program management. So it just depends on where the retailer is in their journey and what part of refinement that they need that we can provide. I'm also have had the opportunity to now do some strategic coaching for female executives, which I really enjoy. And so it's bringing that past experience on just how to think strategically, how to navigate change within an organization, how to, what do you do to focus from a personal growth perspective?
Yes.
So that's just been really fun that some of the projects have extended and turned into more of these ongoing engagements, which has been really, really rewarding.
There are also obviously like female related challenges, right? As a corporate, let's say executives or the mid cap companies, right? That you also probably can help a lot as well.
Yeah, it's just how to have that voice for change within an organization, and some different ways to do that if you're having any roadblocks, or how to deal with different situations, I should say.
And limiting beliefs, right? So that's
right. Exactly.
Angela, do you see something right now that really excites you about the industry, like a marketing trend, like something's shaping in the industry, technology?
Well, I hate to say AI because everyone else is talking about it, but it really is AI. I use it personally on a daily basis. And so the more questions and clarity about what you need to solve, the more it will be part of every step of that customer journey. So AI is really exciting. It's also will be interesting of just using AI, especially AI in a corporate, of what roles need to shift. The roles that were entry level roles that may be doing this job, and this is really how they learned how to become part of an organization, may not be there. So how do you change your internal pipeline? The effects, the people effect of it, I find is really interesting, along with all of the things that it can do. But it takes a lot of shaping and creating of how does it become an efficient tool. When you can do just about anything, you have to have a lot of clarity about what do you want it to do, and what do you want that outcome to be. So I think that's really interesting, and using it as a in the service part of the industry. I mean, it's just, you can use it on almost every step of the way from a personalization perspective. And so I look at it from AI for good, all these great things that it can do, and need to also think about some of the ethical implications and the people part of it as well.
Nice. So Angela, how people can find you?
Well, you can find me on the World Wide Web, of course.
Okay. How?
Well, MediaMaxx.com.net is our website. You can also reach me on LinkedIn, of course, and would love to connect. And if people need help with how to drive that value and get clarity around the things that matter, would definitely love to connect.
Yes. What are some of the more interesting type of, let's say, companies that you're looking to work with? Are there any specific niche or size?
We really help small to mid-size. The big guys have a lot of internal resources, and we become an extension of the team. We've got a ton of experience in wellness, health and wellness categories, pet categories, and really high consideration products. And so products that you need that connected experience to really be able to lever all of those assets, to build trust with the consumer, to help them understand why to buy your product. And so in high consideration, complexity of services, we can help with that strategic clarity on how to better bridge the gap and reach that customer.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very important. Angela, thank you so much. It was really, really interesting.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
I love being able to connect, and I think Rethink Retail, because they're the ones that brought us together. Being named top experts was pretty cool, and having a chance to network, get to know you guys has been great.
So there's a shout out to Rethink Retail, so really nice and very, very important and amazing community. It's available globally and great experience to meet new colleagues all over the world. Great, Angela, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the end of this episode. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe so you won't miss any of our future content. And if you could share this with just one person, it would make all the difference. Are you looking to accelerate your sales with the power of shoppable video? Explore Vimi, the video commerce platform that includes live shopping, shoppable video, and social commerce capabilities. Visit Vimi at www.vimi.net, that's VIMMI.net, where you can start with a free for life package. We appreciate your support and look forward for bringing you more valuable insight in our next episode.